Well, welcome back, everyone. This is your host, ID Jester, and we are continuing our look into fire attacks in the Advanced Squad Leader rules set. All in about 15 minutes. It's been a couple weeks since I've posted videos. I've been under the weather for the last couple weeks. I've been having a coughing attack, so hopefully I can get through this without having to stop every 2 minutes. And hopefully we can just get through this. Got a lot more to cover in fire attacks. As you can see, we added some more information, and then we're going to continue. Last time we talked about our support weapons, started looking into support weapons. We talked about portage points on the weapons. We also talked about our squads, half squads, single man counters, and their portage capacity. How to use your support weapons, who can use them, and who retains their firepower. This episode, we're going to be talking about a few new things here to add to our repertoire of rules. We're looking at Section A of the rulebook, subsection 9.2, multiple ROF. ROF stands for rate of fire. So we look at each support weapon has a number encased in a square to denote its multiple rate of fire, and therefore can fire possibly many times during the player turn. This is abstractly done in Advanced Squad Leader by original colored die roll of the machine gun, and if that colored die is less than or equal to the machine gun's applicable rate of fire, the machine gun retains its rate of fire and can fire again during that phase. However, during the movement phase, a defender machine gun cannot fire at the same unit in the same location more times than the number of movement factors that they spent to enter into the location. Once a machine gun has lost its multiple rate of fire, it is marked with the appropriate prep fire, first fire, or final fire counter. Now, we looked at prep fire. We haven't looked at first fire or final fire yet, but eventually we will get to look at that. So we're talking about the square boxes. So you can see here I've got a couple examples here of some Russian machine guns. We have a heavy machine gun here who has a 3 encased inside a square. That means if you roll a 3 or less on your colored dice, the heavy machine gun will retain its rate of fire and will be able to fire again. You can see here the LMG, the light machine gun here, has a 1 encased in its box, which means it will retain its rate of fire if you roll a 1 on the colored dice. So before we go on to the other rules, let's just look at our Vassal module here and explain exactly what I'm talking about here. When you're playing an Advanced Squad Leader, we are going to be rolling 2d6, and I'm not sure if I've mentioned this previously, but one of those 2d6 will be colored, and the other one will be white dice. And a lot of things will refer to what happens when you roll the colored dice, and you'll compare that with several different things. And one of the things you're going to compare that with is your machine gun rate of fire. Inside the Vassal module, when I roll dice here, it doesn't actually give me a result here and tell me which is the colored dice and which is the white dice. So what you just normally assume is that the first dice you roll is going to be your colored dice, and the second dice is going to be your white colored dice. So in this case, I rolled a 6 on my colored dice and a 2 on my white dice. If I was to roll again, I would roll 4 on my colored dice and 1 on my white dice. So again, I'm going to compare the first number that I roll to anything that might be applicable to a colored die. In this situation, we're going to compare that to the boxed number rate of fire on your support weapons. So in this case, if I'm shooting a heavy machine gun in O2 here, we can see that it has a boxed firepower of 3. Boxed rate of fire of 3. So if I was to attack with this unit, say from O2 to K1, I'm going to declare that attack. I'm going to roll 2 dice. I'm going to roll a 3 on my colored dice, a 6 on my white dice. 3 is less than or equal to my rate of fire, so this gun is actually going to shoot again. So even though I rolled a 9, 9 might not do any damage to the enemy, but it's retained its rate of fire, so I would go ahead and roll the dice again. In this case, I rolled a 5 on my colored dice and a 5 on my white dice. The 5 here on the colored dice is greater than my 3 rate of fire. So this machine gun is no longer able to fire. It is assumed to have used up all of its firing capacity for the phase, and it would be marked with a prep fire counter. You can tell it's a prep fire phase of the Russian player's turn by our phase disc here. So in that case, I would go ahead and put a prep fire counter on this unit, and I'll be back in just a second. Okay, sorry about that, folks. Got a little twitch there. Had to stop recording for a second. And my throat. All right, so that's basically what we're talking about when we're talking about rate of fire. And of course, we're assuming that this unit in O2, this full squad in this heavy machine gun, obviously could add their firepower together for one attack. After the unit, though, shoots the first time, it is not going to retain any kind of rate of fire. So the first attack, the full squad and the heavy machine gun would be able to have 6 firepower up to a range of 2 there, and 6 firepower for the heavy machine gun up to a range of 12. And of course, once it's shot, the full squad would then get a prep fire counter, and the heavy machine gun, whether or not it retained its fire, would also either get a prep fire counter or not get a prep fire counter. And if it didn't receive a prep fire counter because it kept its rate of fire, you're just going to put the prep fire counter on the full squad, and then your heavy machine gun can, of course, go ahead and shoot later on, or continue shooting at the current unit or whatever. So the actual shooting with a squad and the heavy machine gun, or any support weapon in that case, is separate. It's the rate of fire is only going to be kept for your support weapons and not your squad. So I just wanted to make sure that that was covered. The other thing we're going to talk about here is, of course, when you shoot them, your support weapons can break down, they can malfunction, all sorts of bad things can happen. And of course, that's when we roll the dreaded 12. So a support weapon has an inherent break number of B12. Unless it has another B number on the counter in the form of a B followed by a number. That means whenever you have an original IFT die roll that is greater than or equal to the break number of the weapon, the support weapon malfunctions and you're going to invert it over to its other side. So you can see, again, I've got a couple examples here. The heavy machine gun, the Russian heavy machine gun, doesn't have any B number listed, so it's just assumed that if you roll a break number of 12, this has a break number of 12, so you would have to roll a break number of 12 for this machine gun to malfunction. If we look at the Russian light machine gun here, you can see that it does have a B number on the counter, and that number is B11, which means if you roll an original break number of 11 or 12, this light machine gun will, of course, malfunction, and you're going to flip it over to its opposite side. Now, these numbers here, that break numbers, are obviously the dice roll, and this is before any kind of modifications. So if I have, say, rolled a 10, but I have, say, a +2 to my attack, which brings it up to a 12, that does not qualify as a break number. The break number is actually the actual number that you roll on the dice before any kind of modifications, minuses, or positives to your attack. So in this case, the light machine gun, if I rolled an original 11 or an original 12, then it would malfunction, and that does not take into consideration any kind of modifiers for the attack. If you have multiple support weapons that are grouped together in a FG or a fire group, you're going to roll using random selection to determine which one is broken. And of course, you can have, because of the random selection, the process of random selection, you can have multiple weapons, of course, becoming malfunctioning. during an attack, if that is done with multiple support weapons that are contained in a fire group. We haven't talked about fire groups yet. I don't believe in this unit in this video series yet, but I've put out other video series on fire groups. But eventually we will talk about fire groups as well. Lastly, on our to-do list for today is 9.72, and that is support gun repair. And any good order unit may attempt to repair as many of its malfunctioning support weapons during the rally. I'm sorry. Yes, the rally phase, as it can fire in one phase by making a die roll. And the die roll here is a single die roll for each unit. If the repair die roll is less than or equal to the repair number listed on the back of the counter in the form of an R number, the gun is repaired, and then a die roll of 6 eliminates the gun. So again, a single 6-sided dice. In this case, you can see here I have flipped over the light machine gun. So I'll put it underneath the light machine gun. If you flip over a light machine gun, this is what you would see on the back of it. Up in the top left-hand corner is R1, and on the bottom corner is X6. X should be noted here in one of these paragraphs it should talk about. If a support weapon has an X number as opposed to a B number, X number means eliminate. There's no way to repair those items. They are eliminated when you roll a X number. We'll look at that when we get into Vassal here in a few seconds. But if it has an X number, you're going to eliminate it. And obviously, if your R number is going to repair it. So if we look at the light machine gun here, if I was to roll a single 6-sided dice and I roll a 1, I'm going to repair this weapon. If I roll a 6, this weapon is going to be eliminated and removed from the game because it is no longer functioning at all. So that's how that is done. Let's look at some of these different items here on our Vassal module and take a quick look around. Let's see, we have up here in the top corner, let's just move this down here so we can see it a little better. In M2, I've moved a item here. You can see it as an X12 there. Again, if you were to roll an original 12 on the dice roll, this is again before any kind of modifications or anything. If you roll a 6-6, you're going to get a 12. That's an X number. That means it's eliminated, it's broken, it didn't work, whatever, however you want to put it. As opposed to flipping this unit over and trying to repair it, an X number is going to be eliminated permanently from the game. Here you can see here in R1 we have a flamethrower here. Again, it has an X10. X again meaning that if you roll on a flamethrower attack, if you roll a 10, 11, or 12, again this is before any kind of modifications, a 10, 11, or 12, this item instead of being flipped over is going to be X, it's going to be eliminated. B is break. When it's a B number, you're going to go ahead and flip it over. So if this medium machine gun here, just off the board here, you can see it has a break number of 11. If this does roll, if you do roll an 11 or a 12 when you're attacking with this, you're going to flip it over. And you'll see when we flip it over on the back side, you can see a R number in the top left-hand corner. Again, this is repairing it. And you're going to see in the bottom right-hand corner an X number, which is going to eliminate it. Again, you're going to eliminate it on die roll a 6. But you can see up here that now I can roll a 1 or a 2 to repair this item. And of course, that is going to be done in the rally phase. And of course, that happens at the beginning of your turn. So if you're lucky, your units, good order units, of course, will be able to roll to see if they can repair their weapons. Then you can repair them, and then of course then you go in the prep fire phase and the movement phase and the advanced fire phase. So hopefully at the beginning of your turn your units can repair these items. Then you can move them around on the map and then use them during that turn. Obviously if they're not repaired, then you won't be able to use them. And it should be noted that you should see a white X on the back of these counters. If there is not a white X on the back, you cannot repair that item. I believe that's also listed here somewhere. Something else of note for all my advanced squad leader players out there, that a captured support weapon or gun may never be repaired unless it's recaptured by its original side. So if you're capturing an enemy weapon and you start using it and it breaks, that weapon can't be repaired by you. The other thing I do want to mention is that each nationality has different break numbers on their weapons and different repair numbers on their weapons. So just because the uh, Russian player break number is a B11 on their light machine gun doesn't mean other nationalities will also have a break number on 11. Just look at the counter and see if a break number is listed. If there's no B number listed, then it's assumed to have a break number of 12, and they just don't print that on the counter just to keep it uncluttered, basically, to keep it uncluttered. And of course, if it does break, you're going to flip it over to its backside, and you'll be able to see your repair number, and hopefully you'll be able to roll low and get these support weapons or guns repaired. And if you don't, and you roll at a 6, it's going to be eliminated for good. So hopefully that will take care of what we're talking about when we're moving these items around, and then we're going to be shooting them, and hopefully we can keep from breaking them down. Also, again, keep in mind that this heavy machine gun here is got a rate of fire of 3 on it. So again, half the time you use this gun, it's going to get another shot. And of course, it can keep rolling. So if I roll, say, a 1-6, it would keep its rate of fire because the 1 is the colored dice. And then I could roll a 1-5, and it would keep its rate of fire. I could roll a 2-4, it would keep its rate of fire. I could then roll a 3-3, it would keep its fire. So you can obviously see that these weapons with the higher number in the box obviously have a greater opportunity for you to use them multiple times. And of course, if I keep rolling attacks with this, sooner or later I'm going to roll a 6-6, and it's going to break. But that's just, hopefully that's just some of the luck that's involved in Advanced Squad Leader, and hoping to keep your items in full working order. Let's see, was there anything else that we wanted to go over? Multiple rate of fire. We talked about support weapons and multiple support weapon malfunctions. Again, should a fire group contain 2 or more of your support weapons, and you do roll a break number that's going to affect them. Let's say I had a fire group here that had a light machine gun and a heavy machine gun in it, and I roll I roll an original 11. This rule doesn't come into play because this item did not fall within the break number. Now, of course, if I had these units, these 2 support weapons, and they were in a fire group and I rolled an original 12, that's when this rule would come into play, because both of these have a break number of 12. So hopefully that will explain how that rule comes into play. Alright, well, sorry it's taken me some time out. Like I said, I've been under the weather a little bit. Hopefully I can get back in the swing of things, and hopefully get some more videos out. So until the next time, thanks for watching, thanks for your support, and we'll see you soon.